Okay. We will call this meeting to order. Got roll call. We need an approval of the minutes from the April 15th, 2026 meeting. Oh, am I okay. I was like trying not to be too loud. Can you hear me okay, Doug? Okay. If I can get an approval for the minutes of the April 15th meeting. I'm moved. Thank you. Public comments germane to agenda items. We do not have any. Reports of officer or subcommittees. I have no report as audit chair at the moment. Report of internal auditor.
I also do not have a report today.
Thank you. Reports of special committees. We have none. Any special orders? We have none. All right, unfinished business. Let's start with the report of Finance Department.
Yes, ma'am. I've got Penny here with me. On the first one, if you remember, we had an individual who was here from the public, handed out some couple at our last meeting, some complaints and so forth about some of the who was it? 2 contracts, one for Connect Ministries and McNabb, and indicated didn't follow the city's procurement process. And Ms. Owens, the purchasing agent for many years now, has handed you a copy of their responses to each of the questions and complaints. You have that in front of you. It's not on oversized paper, it's on regular sized paper. And our position is, as Penny's written in the responses, that these were simply appropriations to nonprofits and thus did not need to go through our procurement procedures, and our law department has concurred with that position. Like I say, though, Penny has written the responses to each of these complaints and questions, and if you have questions on it as you're looking at that, please ask us. We stand ready to respond. I remember Council DeBartoleben wanted to hear more about that. If not, I'll move on to the next item, or we can circle back. The other one.
I got a question.
Sure.
Regarding that. I think, there was confusion in terms of grants and contracts, right? I think we were discussing the difference between the two, and looking at, how we reward a nonprofit or how we are in a contractual agreement with a nonprofit is different from if it was a for-profit business, right? So if I'm a lawn care service, that has to go through the procurement process, right? I win the bid, et cetera, and then I'm rewarded those funds. If I'm a nonprofit, I don't have to do that, is what we're saying. So if I'm a nonprofit and I'm contracting with the city for services, I don't have to go through a procurement.
That is
process.
correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
The only time that is different, and my recollection is, Penny, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you are a not-for-profit that is promoting tourism or industry growth or something like that in the area. For instance, like with Visit Knoxville, we have to have, per state law, a contract with them. Am I dated in my remembrance?
No, that's correct. We have to have a contract with them, but just like a charitable nonprofit, we can still award to them. We don't have to necessarily follow the procurement process because they are a nonprofit.
But you have to have a written contract with them, sir.
Yeah, for the civil, yeah.
But we're talking here charitable, in each case, charitable ones. And, for every nonprofit, you do, when you're providing them money as the city, we want them to do certain things for the betterment of the community. Sometimes that's written down. Sometimes, it's reduced to writing, as attorneys say, and sometimes it's not. It doesn't not have to be. Other questions on that one? And if you have some as you go along, we can come back to it.
So
When we initially spoke about this, when the topic initially came up, I think there was some confusion about what a contract is and what, and I can't think of the word right now.
A grant.
A grant
versus a
is.
grant.
Thank you. Yes. Are we being more intentional about when and how we use those words to make it
Yes.
clear the difference?
Yes, and so that's part in your packet. We talked about that, and I've actually talked to the law department, and we're not going to call them contracts anymore.
Okay.
We will actually award basically an MOU for appropriations to a nonprofit. So they will distinguish themselves as something different than truly a grant
Perfect.
or a contract.
Okay. Thanks for that clarity.
Yep.
I kind of want to piggyback on that too, and also understanding what our policies are, and then obviously what state guidelines are. And I understand, right? But, eventually getting to a point or even having a conversation where we do what makes sense. Because to have the community agency grants, any grants that are given through the Office of Community Safety and Empowerment in terms of having an application process for our nonprofits, but when it comes to having a contractual relationship with certain nonprofits, the administration can just choose. Having two different processes regarding our nonprofits, I think, is what creates the confusion, and not just confusion, but confliction. And I'm speaking from personal experience, right? Having ran a nonprofit, having the fortunate opportunity to have been selected in terms of providing a service for the city without actually having to go through a competitive process, can create frustration amongst the community. And so maybe, I think we should look at that, right? I know what the law says,
Right.
but, as we put these things into practice and as we get feedback from the community, understanding that sometimes what the law isn't how we should go about things. And so I just want us to keep an open mind in regards to that, because even as council members, it's challenging for us when an agreement is being put in front of us, and it's almost whether we agree with it or not, it doesn't matter, because this is what the administration or a particular office is wanting, right? When we're getting questions and complaints from community members that's saying, hey, why don't I have the opportunity to be a part of that process? And so just kind of wanted to speak to that and get that on record, that I know what the law is, but based off what we're saying right now is we have two different processes for our nonprofits, and one can be grants, which has a somewhat of a competitive process, and the other is just, hey, I choose you, and there doesn't need to be a process. And so like I said, I just kind of want us to be mindful of that as we move forward, to see how we can possibly change that. I mean, I think whether you are a nonprofit or not, if you're looking to earn a contract with the city, there should be some type of competitive process, unless there's unless the service that's being asked, we only have one
Right.
organization doing it, but there's multiple organizations that are able to offer these services. And so I think it's only right that we do have some type of competitive process, even with the contracts. Yeah, that's it.
The next item I wanted to bring up, this is something the chair of this committee, Miss Elliott, brought up some time ago, and everybody is, based on just general consensus, I could tell that wanted to do it, was have some sort of a checklist that came forward with the council packets. So I've got a one-pager in front of you that looks like this, and it's entitled City of Knoxville Nonprofit Verification Checklist. And from now on, including this upcoming council meeting 1 week, well, not even a week, this coming Tuesday, we've got some nonprofits, I forget which department's coming forward with that. But anyway, you're gonna see this for the various nonprofits. And what it does is it's gonna be signed by the finance department, and it's gonna say, basically, that they either do or don't. Well, you won't get it if they don't meet, but that they do meet the minimum requirements as a nonprofit for receiving public funds. One is the IRS 501c3 determination letter. 2 is a copy of the audit/annual report for most recent FY, that they're W-9, and then proof of active, that means current registration as a charitable organization with the state of Tennessee's Secretary of State Department. And we will, assuming all that's squared away, check each of these. In fact, the person to my right, Ms. Owens, will be signing that. You may say, well, why don't the departments do that? They will. They'll turn all of that stuff into us, but we have to check it before it goes out the door to come. I'm really speaking more to the folks, our standing council men and women, that comes to you all. That way you will have this in there in your packets to know that they meet the minimum requirements for receiving public funds. And I think that will be very helpful going forward.
Yeah, and this really stemmed from the conversation you and I had one-on-one of your concern there. And so they had originally said, well, we're going to give them copies of all of these things. And so when we met a couple weeks ago, I said that just makes that package even bigger and more daunting. So having kind of just this one pager and then someone's responsible. But that way you all know as council members, all these things have been checked before you're about to approve giving money to these organizations.
So,
Also, from an audit perspective, you know, we already have on the work plan that we're going to look at grants, but obviously that will get put into a rotation, so it's probably not going to be checked every year, but, you know, however often we check them, and then this will be documentation to review to ensure that those things have been done. And if for some reason there is a mistake or something missing, then there will be accountability, and then hope, you know, training or whatever's necessary to rectify the problem. So I think this is great. I think it's going to be really helpful for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And I think our external auditors will be really happy to see that, given the findings. So I really appreciate you all working on that.
Yeah, I mean, kudos. I mean, definitely appreciate it. Not only for you guys, but for those nonprofits to make sure that they have a checklist for themselves. It's one thing to believe that you're going to be rewarded something based off hearsay, and then it doesn't happen, right? And so this right here keeps checks and balances on both the recipient and ourselves as a city. So I definitely appreciate you guys for doing that. Thank you.
the third thing on finances list to address is in your package, you saw the amendment to the executive order, which established the procedures for waste, fraud, and abuse of government funds or property. And with that amendment, the internal auditor, Ms. Kirk, was added to it such that she receives any report that comes in at the same time that Mr. Swanson, the mayor, and myself do. She receives it simultaneously, and we've already got with Mr. Jensen, who runs 311-211. That's where those reports come into, and then they go out simultaneously to now those 4 people, and he's already fixed it up so that Savannah will be receiving that. So just FYI is that.
And I appreciate Boyce emailed him copying us to make sure she is added to that direct list. So we had that paper trail that is truly how it was set up.
Now, in terms of any complaints that have come in that waste, fraud, and abuse system, we received 2. I'm just going to and you've got those right here, and it almost looks like a doggone eye test, but I don't know any other way to do it except that. But you don't have to read the disposition, all of them on the top one there. I'll just hit the highlights. The complaint essentially came down to, all right, city, you've got this internal controls manual, but it has not been, as it says it's supposed to be in the preamble to that document, distributed to all employees. And, you know, that was developed back in 2020. I developed it myself. And it makes sure that we're following proper internal controls for the managements of funds. And at that time, we did hand it out to the 4 division chiefs in finance, revenue, accounting, treasury, purchasing, who are responsible for managing funds. That was really the intent of who's it's supposed to go to. And they also, those divisions do sometimes advise other employees who handle funds on the proper way to manage and account for such funds. And while I just wanted to clear this up, I was not aware when I wrote it at the time. I think when I wrote it, I was the deputy CFO. When I signed it, I was the CFO. But it said in there that it had to be distributed to all employees. Well, our law department looked into that, and bottom line is the law simply doesn't state that it's got to be distributed to all employees. I was wrong when I wrote that. But it does, the law does indicate that you need to have a way of properly safeguarding against the waste of funds, the loss or misappropriation or unauthorized use. And this internal controls manual goes a long way and do that. Just to let you know, I did, in fact, I think the council persons were probably, I've never used all city employees before, but I did in my 20 years here, 20 plus, I've never done that, but I did this time, where I sent out and I said, here it is, here's the link, you can go to it, it's right there. So we have since corrected that. Whether the state law actually says you got to do that or not, we did do it. And frankly, the manual in some areas is a little dated. A lot of it still takes place every day, but we're looking at it, and I'll be updating that thing personally. I've got it out my division chiefs for review right now. They've got a date to come back to me, and we're going to be updating that. Anyway, our law director carefully reviewed this complaint and opined that there were no factual allegations in the complaint to suggest waste, fraud, or abuse occurred. And concluded that this was not a meritorious claim of waste, fraud, or abuse. But it did help us, be that as it may, it did help us tighten up a few things, such as, well, one, I'm going to be updating it, and two, the manual, whether the law says it or not, I did send that out to all employees. So that's that for that.
Well, and just to add to that, Boyce, when Boyce and I met and we talked through this complaint, it was an opportunity to be seen of, hey, this is something that now needs to be on their radar as the finance department to update that, review and update it every year. But, you know, like when it's out of sight, out of mind, and with anybody's policies and procedures, that's really, really common. It happens in my firm all the time. So it's really just having those ticklers on the calendar to look at those, review, update, and adjust, because our processes change, administration changes, all the things. So it was a great opportunity to silver lining out of the complaint that was something that we could improve on.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, you can always improve, and I think that's a valid thing. Yeah, we used to call them SOPs in the Army, and once it was done, it was good for about 24 months, and then it kind of sat over there collecting dust unless you inculcated it. The second report that we received alleges fraud in terms of, it dealt with the contract, extension of the contract with the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform, NICJR is the acronym that's often used, and said also that there appeared to be an amendment that materially changed the scope of work for the contract. Frankly, I got that last week. We're looking into the details. I don't have a report at this meeting. We'll have a report on all that at the next meeting, but I don't have anything at this point in time. And the last thing I wanted to say is, although Councilwoman Helsley isn't here, you have in front of you this, it's not on the agenda, but this, I think there's 4 pages of single-space spreadsheet, oversized sheets of paper that show, you know, which nonprofits were awarded how much money, whether it was state, federal, opioid, or local dollars, and then, you know, what type of award it was, you know, what department it came from in most cases. So, and I know she wanted to see that with a little more detail, and that's what we've done here.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions or comments for finance?
Yeah, I would like to speak to the last complaint in terms of, you know, fraud regarding the NICJR contract. Because I myself, you know, undoubtedly have been following this process, and I did have some conversation with Savannah. Actually submitted some documentation to me regarding this. So, and just so I have clarity in terms of what the process is, because I was heavily involved in this process. When we have a contract with the entity, and that contract expires before we can either renew or extend, and we're fixing that process, right? It happens. What I draw question and concern from is not only that, but when we look at the term of this agreement, I remember last year when council decided to vote for this amendment, where an additional $519,000 was rewarded, and the term was extended. That extension just recently expired. That initial amendment just recently expired April 29th. Fast forward to today, I believe that an amendment was made to extend that until December 31st. Now, no additional funding was rewarded. Therefore, that amendment didn't need to come in front of council, which I understand that's our process. Again, I understand what the law is, but I mean, as politicians, we have to think optics. And when you extend a contract that council has voted on without the knowledge of council, it raises concerns. When you look at the amount that was agreed upon, $500,000 that was agreed upon for an additional 12 months of services, only half of that was spent. And so there's still an amount of $274,000 at the time of April 29th that needed to be paid out to NICJR. And so if you ask me for $500,000 for 12 months, and after 12 months you still have more than half of it remaining, then to me you overasked, right? Because you're asking for an additional 8 months to spend this funding, which raises red flags. Again, it's the process that draws concern from just even myself and the community in terms of how we handle things. And so just making sure we're streamlining the communication as you guys do dive more into this and try to review the facts on paper, and just what, from my experience and what I've seen, we shouldn't be doing it that way. It needs to change, especially when a topic is so sensitive and there's so many eyes on violence prevention work and the contract. Whether or not the community was heavily against it, right? City council voted on it, they supported it. That's water under the bridge. But in terms of forward thinking, we really just have to be mindful about how we make amendments. Even when it comes to reporting, I haven't seen a dollar in terms of how these finances have been allocated and spent to the community. I haven't seen any documentation in terms of how the money's being used, which draws more concern. And am I a little biased? Yes, right? Because when you talk about public dollars, we have to be as transparent as possible when it comes to spending. And when there's hesitation in terms of being able to provide financial documentation for such a large contract, one is only right to be concerned. So I haven't yet received any financial reports from the Office of Community Safety and Empower. I have requested them. I don't know if you guys have them, But I would like to see any purchasing orders, any documentation that you guys have received from NICJR in terms of where every dollar has gone since this contract has began and the amendment was made. I think it's only right that all of council, especially the new council members, have the opportunity to see that financial documentation.
Yeah, I don't recall being asked for that, and to my knowledge, I just checked with Penny, she hadn't been asked for that. That's where, generally speaking, that would come from. So and as far as what you asked of the Community Safety Empowerment Department, I have no knowledge of that. So.
Yeah, so would your recommendation be in the future when requesting financial documentation from a department, CC you guys, or instead of directly talking to that department head?
Or just ask us straight out? I mean, we're going to have, it all goes, the fancy words in our ERP, our financial software, we in our general ledger, we have everything.
Mm-hmm.
We have it all.
Okay.
And that's how we can create these 4 single-page, oversized written spreadsheets on a plethora of nonprofits. I mean, we have all that stuff. We have to have it.
So your recommendation to Mr. Grant would be going forward to come to you directly?
Probably. I would let the department then know that it was
Sure.
something was being asked for. And,
Sure.
you know, particularly if we were looking at something, we're like, okay, here's what it says, but give us a little of the inside baseball behind that. I would go to them. But, yeah, we'll have the, you know, the straight of it.
Okay. And
All right.
just so I'm clear, this particular contract it's reimbursement, right? So NICJR will provide dollars spent, and then we, in return, reimburse them for services provided.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
And so when I'm requesting finances, I'm going to be able to see, you know, NICJR spent
expenditures.
$36,000 this particular month. Here's what they spent it on, and here's us reimbursing them for that $36,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I know we all have a lot on our plates. Is it helpful to put this in email format so that we have, like, you know, a box to check off, or is that unnecessary?
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would probably just send the email.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
You want to
I'll
do it,
send
okay.
the email, and I'll just have you guys CC'd on it along with the office, and then I'll add you
Okay.
to it as well.
Thank
And,
you.
and then if it not just only be sent to me, but sent out to all of the council members and along with this committee, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything else for finance? All right, thank you all so much. Moving on to the work plan. No update on the work plan. I know we've had a lot of other things going on.
Yeah, I can say, you know, Boyce and I are meeting monthly, and we discussed, you know, where we're standing on the grants. We're waiting for the new fiscal year to start, and then you should see some movement there. So yeah, we're just kind of hanging out, waiting.
Gotcha. All right, consideration of nominations relating to expiring terms for myself, Nikki Elliott, and Ronnie Brobson.
The first question, I guess, is do you both want to serve another term?
They have no choice.
Yeah,
Of course I will.
of course we will.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you, Mr. Brabson.
Ms. Hopper, do you have any suggestions on nominations, how they should go? Okay. I guess so. What we'll do is take nominations to extend. Let me rewind. So, when citizen representatives get put on this committee, the committee reviews the resumes with experience and training and all of that, and then the committee makes a recommendation to city council, and city council is who votes to put those representatives on the committee. So what we would need is the committee to make a motion and second and vote to, you can do them together or separately, to extend their terms. And let me check. Yeah, it's for 3 years. And so their terms are ending currently December 31st of this year. And so it will add 3 years to that date.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the terms for both Nikki Elliott and Ronnie Brabson.
Second.
Do we have all in
Yeah.
favor? All in favor, say aye.
You can't vote.
And aye. Thank you all. Okay.
Thank you. We'll be honored to serve.
Thank you.
Next, the proposed policy of the role of internal auditor for the fraud, waste, and abuse reporting. That is page 14 and 15 of our packet. This one's had a little bit of some comments in the public and prompted a Knox News Sentinel article recently. So we want to definitely make the time for this. To start, any comments, feedback, questions, critiques of the role of the internal auditor? So when Ms. Savannah was added to get the fraud, waste, and abuse reports, we wanted to make sure that she had, hey, Miss Debbie, on this side. We wanted to make sure that she had some guidelines and guardrails with the information that she is receiving. When we were first pushing for Savannah to receive these emails of fraud, waste, the comments of fraud, waste, and abuse directly, that was the point. That's what the audit committee wanted for her to have. So now that we have that, we wanted to make sure it was still clear that her role wasn't to go and dig through these fraud, waste, and abuse comments at that time. It was more of making sure that what the city was reporting to us is what everything that has been reported to the city or to that fraud, waste, and abuse line. So we first created these guidelines. So one of the comments from the Knox News Sentinel side from reading this was we made really high guardrails. And so basically, and there's accusations that the city's involved. It's not. I was in this, and so was Vice Mayor Fugit. So, and I want to clarify why we have these really high guardrails right now. Because the way that the audit committee currently stands, we cannot go into executive order. So if Ms. Savannah goes into a fraud, waste, and abuse report is sent in on Mr. Grant, and she starts digging into it and getting emails and asking questions, and she starts to have any kind of work papers, anybody in the community can request that information right now because we cannot put it in executive order. So we wanted to kind of protect, first of all, the community could see if somebody put their name in on who's making the complaint, they could see that because of the request for open record for her currently. And then also see who the complaint was about and all the details. And then if she were to do any work, she would have to give that to them. So we wanted to make sure we were creating really high guardrails right now to protect everybody involved, whoever's being accused, whoever put in the submission, all things. So pausing there for a moment of that's why this came out. We don't want it to stand as is. And so we, meaning Savannah, Will, myself, and we have pulled in Vice Mayor for her input, and then as well as the council's attorney to start talking through what changes do we need to make as an audit committee to be able to go into executive session. Once we are able to do that, then if there are instances of fraud, waste, and abuse that we want her to dig into, that we don't necessarily like what the city answers us with, whatever it is, then we can say, hey, we want you to dig and get more answers for us. But at this time, we don't want to do that because it puts a lot of pressure for whoever that complaint was made on and whoever made the complaint to be really right out in the public without any due process. So that's why we did that. The article was really unfair in Knox News Sentinel. If you read it, it is not true at all. It was myself, Vice Mayor, and then we asked Will and Savannah to look into it. Will is the one that primarily wrote it. We didn't pull it from any information. It was really just looking into protecting everybody that could potentially be involved with fraud, waste, and abuse submissions. So that is why it's currently kind of high guardrails. However, we are working through what do we need to do to change the audit committee where we can go into executive session and be able to dig a little bit more and protect those people involved in the fraud, waste, and abuse allegations. Also, another important part of being able to go into executive session is to be able to talk one-on-one with our external auditors without anybody else. The public, maybe they prevent from saying something because public are sitting there, those kind of things. So being able to really be able to dig a little bit more where it's not completely out in the public, but it should be within this audit committee.
I think that's good.
Thank you. Any pushback, any comments? Yes, sir?
No, I just want to say thank you for that too, and just, a reminder for all of us, this is new.
Yeah.
So, credit to the mayor and the administration. We've never had a fraud, waste, and abuse line, so this is something new. It's not going to be perfect. We're still, figuring some things out. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And as people, critique this thing, just reminding them like, hey, it's new, just letting people know like this is something that this administration has just brought forth that, we're ironing out the kinks. So thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I agree. Good job.
Thanks. Any addition to that?
I did, but I forgot.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Well, we are working through it. I hope to have something, we hope to have something. I don't like to have meetings to have another meeting, so my goal is to bring something at the next, my goal is to bring something to the next meeting that we can actually truly vote on and move on, and so we can really get her in that position that she should be, to be able to confidentially talk to this committee.
I did remember. We do need action on this. So the committee will need to vote. This is a draft. You will need to vote to accept it as the audit committee's policy moving forward. And so, that will be what I follow until something else is put in place. And then also, the recommendation has been to send it to council for their vote as well, because it does affect council's abilities within the policy itself. So just to let you know that will be coming forward to you also.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then just a side note, if we are able to adjust the audit committee to be able to go into executive session, we will come back to this and get these guardrails back down.
Good.
All right. Next, the engagement letter for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2026.
I don't really have much of an update on it at this point. It's just for information for you to have. This has not been signed as of yet. We are working on getting the contract signed. I say we, me and the finance department, specifically Penny. And it is, to be fair, this contract is a little bit of a pain to get signed because it does not operate the way the rest of the city contracts operate. And so the state has mandated a specific language format and everything that you have to go in and sign, which is different than what we have. So there's multiple extra steps to this. So I know it seems like we're pushing it toward the deadline, but it takes a minute. So it is in process. I think we're going to meet the deadline. I don't see any reason not to. But the engagement letter is going to tell you all of the specifics that you will need to expect from the external auditors during the audit and during their report to you. So if you have any questions or anything about that, the engagement letter, it's pretty long. I don't know if you've read it yet, but you can call me or the finance department and we can clear those up for you.
Thank you, Ms. Savannah.
Thank you, Ms. Savannah.
Any comments, questions on the engagement letter? All right. Do we need to approve anything on that? Just notes? All right. Look at how easy this was, you guys.
It's a miracle.
I call this meeting adjourned.